Welcome to University Drive, your pathway to the transformational work of University of the Bahamas. Our goal is to build a better Bahamas by shaping tomorrow's leaders today, finding solutions to challenges, and forging new opportunities for growth. University Drive, where faculty, staff, students, and alumni travel the road of progress together with you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to University Drive. I'm your host, Tamika Lundy, and we are so very glad that you have joined us for this new episode. We are going to have as our focus today guests who are going to be talking to us about partnerships for the progress of higher learning and specifically University of the Bahamas. Joining us are Kandice Eldon, who is the Executive Director of Corporate and Foundation Relations at the university. And she's wearing two hats because she's also the co-chair of the UBFIT Planning Committee. And also joining us is the Associate Vice President of Development and Grants, Ms. Felicity Humblestone. Thank you both so much for being here. Welcome to University Drive.
Thanks for having us. It's good to be here. Thank you very much.
So both of you are colleagues in the Division of Institutional Advancement. And in your respective roles, you're really working towards philanthropy in support of the university and building those partnerships across a broad range of landscapes in order for that to happen. What is the state of that relationship building as far as your experience indicates right now?
Well, I'll start maybe by saying that, I am really pleased to be back at UB. Being last year when it was a college, I left in 2010. So with a bit of an absence, it's super interesting to see the evolution of exactly what you're talking about, which is this sort of breadth and depth of partnerships since that time. So I was here many years ago, 2006, and in a lot of ways, all of this was just starting in a kind of very institutionalized way. And then, a decade plus on, having returned, the DIA, as you mentioned, Division of Institutional Advancement, is really built up in terms of its infrastructure, resources like, a database and the types of staff roles that are there, your own department, OUR, in terms of how it is this institutionalized, link for everyone on the communication side of things. So for me, because I have made a rather recent return, I just feel that from an infrastructure perspective, there's been to support that work, which is sustaining and building relationships, has definitely deepened and transformed since I was last year.
Mm-hmm. You've seen an evolution. That's pleasing.
Absolutely.
It sounds like. And Kandice, for you, you are in charge of a new department.
Yes, I am. I am now in the Office of Corporate and Foundation Relations, which was the brainchild of Mr. Dino Hernandez, our Vice President. He saw the need for us to strengthen our relationships very specifically with some of the wonderful foundations that we have a part of the University of the Bahamas family, as well as Corporate Bahamas. Notably in 2017, UBFIT was created, and that was my beginning, my introduction to building relationships with Corporate Bahamas and connecting them to University of the Bahamas in a different way. And so in 2020, I moved fully into my role, and it's been an interesting journey and seeing how UB is, like Felicity said, continuing to evolve and to develop its relationships with donors and friends. And from my perspective, it's a good journey. We have a wonderful, rich narrative at UB to sell to donors, because students and education, you can't beat that. I mean, that's the way of the future for national development. And so from my perspective, there's still great work to be done, but we have laid a good foundation. And I think one of the keys and one of the pillars to that success is continuous strengthening of relationships and shortening and building our relationships with corporate Bahamas, for me in particular, as well as making sure our foundations feel supported by the university that they help to support financially.
Do you know what jumped out at me just now when you were talking about your transition into this newer role? The year 2020, that's the year that the pandemic was declared. So I'm wondering now, has it been difficult for both of you to continue to feed and nurture relationships for private giving during a pandemic?
I would say from my perspective, the relationships have continued on well. Corporate Bahamas in particular has not really reduced its giving. It actually increased in some ways. When we expressed the need to the community, to the corporate companies in particular, about the need for technology for our students, because all of a sudden, March of 2020, we all went home and we were supposed to work and educate ourselves at home, but many of our students faced a grave challenge of not having a laptop. And so from my perspective, 2020 was the year when Corporate Bahamas in particular really dug deep to say, we're going to help you even through our own challenges. We're not going to let you fail, and we are going to support our students in a very specific way. And in those 2 years, it's been technology support.
That's really quite interesting and an indicator that the community really values and understands how important the National University is, not only as an institution, but also to the continued growth and development of the Bahamas. Felicity, what has been your experience? Because I know you've newly rejoined UB, but you've been in educational philanthropy for quite a while.
Yes. And I was going to say that thinking about the pandemic specifically and, 2020 to where we are now. So the start of the pandemic, I was at my former organization, Life for Key Foundations, obviously very well known to UB, but in the same industry. So when the pandemic hit, of course, like across all areas of nonprofit, we were asking ourselves the same question: what's going to happen? What's going to happen with donations? What's going to happen with how we are able to engage donors when we're used to doing things face to face, even logistic things like board meetings, all these kinds of things. As we didn't know then what we know now, which is that we would live our entire lives on Zoom. And, similar to Kandice, when it hit, I think there was a lot of anxiety in terms of worry for the future and sustaining the programs that we had. But I do think similarly, donors really stepped up. Also, there were opportunities, meaning for certain, I can remember either committee or board meetings, it was as if we even had higher participation because the convenience of Zoom allowed some people who weren't in Nassau or, so I feel like we started to see even higher numbers of participation and engagement via virtual opportunities. Certainly at the very beginning of all of this, we may be a little bit zoomed out now. And of course, we're ready for face-to-face opportunities. But I think all of this has allowed fundraising and relationship building and relationship management professionals for us to think about, we assume that we have to do so many things face-to-face. And don't get me wrong, like the in-person opportunity is still really essential to the work that we do. But, virtual tools like the ones that, your area, Tamika, is able to provide, whether that's short video clips or photos and material that we can use that is able to convey things in a really meaningful way electronically, on email, being able to share it on social media, being able to connect with donors at their convenience, wherever they may be via Zoom. Like, I think all of these are just additions to our toolkit. So coming, as we hope, what is now out of the pandemic and me, rejoining this world at the tail end of COVID-19, I think we're now trying to see how all the things we've learned and the tools that we've added to how we do relationship management on an ongoing basis into the future.
Mm-hmm. So I have a point of view, and you ladies have to tell me if I am right or wrong. Tell me if my opinion is right or wrong. It takes a special person to do what you do, Because when you're talking about building relationships, you really can't fake that stuff and really succeed, right? You have to really love what you do. Why do you think what you are doing in terms of your roles with the University of the Bahamas is so important? So we can start with Kandice.
Thank you, Tamika. I don't think that you can fake the enthusiasm for fundraising, not long-term anyways.
Yeah, no.
And I think some of the anchors for good fundraising is to have something that people believe in. People invest in people. They may give to buildings, but the buildings are to house people. And so the University of the Bahamas in itself is one of the best places to make a donation, because you are literally impacting the lives of young men and women that are going to end up leading our country. And so what drives me on a daily basis, because sometimes life and work can get challenging, is to think about the end goal, which is that student crossing that stage, receiving their diploma, having the skills necessary to make an impact, to make our little Bahamas better. And so, yes, it takes a special person, I think, to want to be in fundraising and want to continue spreading the narrative of University of the Bahamas in particular, and the ways that people can give that truly, tangibly change the lives of people. And that's kind of what motivates me on a day-to-day basis, because your pitch has to be genuine and sustainable. And I could think of no better anchor than our students at UB.
Helping a small country to have an even more giant footprint. Sounds good. And for you, Felicity?
I agree. And I love the way that kind of succinctly said that just now. I completely agree. It's the reason why, I think next year is going to be about 20 years that I've been in educational philanthropy, which, started right after I graduated university in Canada. And, I've said before, and it continues to be true today, like the work that I do really is most meaningful because I'm doing it here, because I'm doing it in the Bahamas, which is home and where I'm from. Not that, this work is important anywhere, but it's about the meaning and the things that Kandice was saying in terms of how it's like really personally relevant to you and personally meaningful. This isn't, although definitely, submitting proposals to donors and forming partnerships has a very business-like feel to it sometimes. It's real. Like if we're quote unquote selling something, we're selling something we truly believe in and are passionate about, because this is our country, this is where we live, this is where our children are born, this is vitally important, and it's personal. It's personal and it's meaningful. So that's what I think does come through when you're in this field, as a Bahamian and doing all these things to build a national university. I think also, whether we're talking about doing this type of work, in your own country for your national university, yes, authenticity is super important. Connecting with people, Tamika, as you said, really on just a genuine human to human level is pretty important to this type of work. And while it is a human business, as Kandice says, and it's about impacting those people, our students on the end side of things, it's also a human business because you're connecting with a donor or a partner who wants to realize a particular vision as well. So I find that part really interesting. My work here years ago, connecting with alumni, I loved hearing their stories. I loved learning about their time at UB and how that impacted their own lives. And as they kind of grow and evolve, that becomes things that they want to do philanthropically. So I think it's connecting to people on both fronts, the people who are investing and the people who are the beneficiaries of those investments.
So what would you both say about the environment of philanthropy in the Bahamas? Is it still relatively new, or are we in an era of philanthropy where it's robust? It's no longer a new environment and people have really caught on and gotten the concept of private giving and why it's important to give towards worthy causes, and particularly those causes and things that impact our national development?
Well, from my experience so far, a lot of our corporate companies have a corporate responsibility which ties in philanthropy and giving to education and to STEM and to research and different things. And so the companies that my team and I have been working with have that vested in them, the fact that, you know, giving back is important, and they you know, delegate in their budget allocations for giving. And so that's been a blessing and really helpful when we talk about, like Felicity said, hearing their stories and making the donors' dreams or their visions come to life. Many of our corporate companies, they have funding that they would like earmarked for certain things. So that's been useful for us. What I do find in the broader context of Bahamian philanthropy and giving, Bahamians give to charitable organizations and causes in a sporadic manner. It depends on who they're connected to, whether it's like a civic group or an organization. I think there's still a bit more expansion that can happen in terms of people's mentality toward giving. And then also the ability for the middle class to give. Many would like to, but because of the economic challenges within homes, sometimes that extra money goes towards groceries or gas. But I think that we as a country are beginning to see the ripple effect to much is given, much is required. And I think, and I hope as we continue our journey to talk about giving that it continues to grow. But from a corporate perspective, that's already kind of ingrained in many of our companies. And thankfully, we have over 20,000 alumni spread out over our archipelago in corporate Bahamas that have been some of our greatest proponents for giving.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that on the company side of things, it's definitely more established. And I honestly think that, you know, UB has been a spark to encourage, because its alumni base is so broad, individual philanthropy, right? So the history of the annual fund going back so far, individual giving, as Kandice says, is not at the same level of maturation as corporate giving. But I think that UB's probably at the forefront of what's going on in terms of culture of philanthropy in the country, because we do have so many alumni. They are, you know, loyal and supportive and enthusiastic, and they're appealed to every year. So that's been a long-standing effort in terms of growing that culture and the habit of giving at whatever level you can. As Kandice said, you know, it's what may be prohibitive in terms of major giving, depending on context or what the economy is going through. But so many people have been just giving within their means, which is amazing.
So what have you found are some of the main motivations of donors to the university? Like, not the stock phrase, oh, you know, corporate social responsibility, and we have a responsibility to give, but why are donors motivated? Donors in corporate land, are they alums who have been recipients of scholarships and attended UB, and now they're at companies and they want to give back to their alma mater? Like, what are the stories? What are the narratives that explain the motivations behind the giving that's happening, the private giving that's happening to UB?
Yeah, in my interface with several donors that are alum of UB, it's really someone did it for me, Kandice, and I want to give back. I've heard that time and time again from individual donors who work for corporate companies who have not only individually given, maybe as a family, but also have been the biggest champion for us in corporate Bahamas. They want to give back. They remember a time when they had a challenge paying for books or for that next semester, and a scholarship came through right in time that allowed them to continue their time at COB and now at UB and graduate. And so there's fond memories there, and there's gratitude there. And that's been like the people like Donnell Osborne, Lawrence Lewis, Dr. Nicola Virgil Roll, all have said, someone took the time to help me get a scholarship that allowed me to continue not only graduating from COB and UB, but going on to my master's programs or my certifications. And that's made all the difference. When people look back in their past and say how I was blessed, they're now in turn becoming a blessing, and they're also championing their companies to do the same.
And you, Felicity?
Yes, absolutely agree. I think that's one of the sort of the biggest messages I've heard as well, which is that it was, people know that they had a personal experience with being the beneficiary of someone else's generosity. I think others, who maybe don't fit that profile, meaning they're necessarily an alum of UB and benefited from a scholarship, maybe they did in their life otherwise, or whether you are Bahamian or non-Bahamian, just a love for this country. So that's I think a steady sort of base as we talked about our own motivations for our own work here. But it includes an international community who loves this country as well, in terms of why they are motivated to invest in an institution where it's not their alma mater. It's not their alma mater, they're not a parent, that kind of thing. There's no obvious connection in the way that other universities have to some of their donor base. They may not even have a company here that is benefiting, financially from the labor pool necessarily, but they know the Bahamas and they love the Bahamas and they want the best for the people who live here and our future. So I think whether, yes, you're an alum or a Bahamian who's not a grad or an international resident, that is another theme that motivates people, is just pure love of the Bahamas and wishing to see it succeed.
So what is the one message in a nutshell that you're transmitting to people across the length and breadth of the Bahamas, the region and the world, about why giving to UB, supporting it, being a part of it, is absolutely necessary? How do you couch that?
For me, education is a doorway, a pathway to, like you said, progress, and to the ability to change the game for not only yourself, but your family, your community, and your nation. And so my mantra is that invest in education, support students who may not necessarily have the best home life or the best situation, but they are striving to be better as first generation UB students, and you have an opportunity to make an impact. And so for me, that's it. Investing in education is building our nation, and you can't go wrong with that.
Sounds good. Felicity?
Absolutely. And I think, the advantage of UB is back to, we're here and it's numbers. Like the largest number of students who are going to attain higher education in this country are going to do so through UB. And that's because of the number of students we're able to serve. And that's because of the resources that it takes to invest and graduate a student from UB compared with, say, the higher cost of doing so abroad. So you're just really going to gain more traction and broader traction. And I would argue for those who particularly get their undergraduate degree at the University of the Bahamas are just are deeply connected to their profession in many cases that they're about to launch into, and just better equipped to solve the problems that we have, because they've been doing so via talking through professors that live and work here, interning at companies that are here, and really being launched into the world of work with those advantages.
Impact. Coming up, we segue into a major program for fund and friend raising for the university, which also impacts how it's building relationships and community and giving hope. This is the point of our first break. This is University Drive. We're speaking with Felicity Humblestone and Kandice Eldon, and we invite you to stay connected with us. Stay tuned. We'll take this break and be back after this.
Chapter One Bookstore is your back-to-school headquarters. We are proud to serve the students, faculty, and staff of the University of the Bahamas and the community at large. We are the premier choice for the purchase of university textbooks and supplies, and UB logo apparel, paraphernalia, and gifts. We also carry a wide variety of school supplies, learning aids, and leisure books. Visit our copy center throughout the semester for all of your printing, copying, and binding needs. Chapter One Bookstore is located on the ground floor of the Michael Eldon complex. Shop with us on Monday through Friday between the hours of 8:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. Call us at 397-2650 or email us at chapter1@ub.edu.bs. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Chapter One Bookstore. See you soon.
To protect yourself and others from COVID-19, stay home as much as possible and avoid close contact with others. Wear a mask that covers your nose and mouth when you leave home. Wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds or use alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Practice social distancing. If you must leave home, stay at least 6 feet away from other people and disinfect items you must touch. Limit in-person contact as much as possible. To prevent the spread of COVID-19 if you're sick, avoid public transportation, ride-sharing, or taxis. Stay home if you're sick, except to get medical care. Remember to call ahead first. Separate yourself from other people and pets in your home. Everyone is at risk of getting COVID-19. Older adults and people of any age who have serious underlying medical conditions may be at higher risk for more severe illness. This message is brought to you by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and University of the Bahamas.
We're back here on University Drive. Thank you so much for staying connected. We're speaking with Felicity Humblestone and Kandice Eldon, who are both in the Division of Institutional Advancement at University of the Bahamas. They are fund and friend raisers in a nutshell for the university, who are super excited about continuing to cultivate the environment for private giving for the support of the institution. And so I want to transition now into one of the major programs for fundraising and fundraising for the university, UBFIT, which is coming up. I believe the big race weekend is the 29th of April to the 1st of May. And I know that momentum is growing. And I know that the community of corporate donors and sponsors and partners for that is growing. Kandice Eldon, you serve as co-chair of the planning committee. Tell me about the planning coming up and what we can expect.
Yes, ma'am. As you said, April 29th to May 1st is UBFIT. This is our 5th annual event. Journeying back, it started as just a spark that became a flame, and the community itself has really embraced it. So UBFIT, like you said, we have over 15 corporate sponsors this year, and despite the ending of the pandemic, and yes, I did say ending. And so UBFIT
speaking it into existence, huh?
Yes. UBFIT will be.
So.
Yes, we hope so. So UBFIT is coming Friday the 29th. It's virtual. You could walk, run, bike, skate, or push. With your family virtually, submit your time and then get your medal later on in the weekend. But the big event, which we're so happy that the COVID numbers went down and the government granted us permission, is going to be on the 30th. That's Saturday morning, crisp 6 a.m. We have an amazing race. We have a professionally timed race that's happening at our Oaksfield campus. And we're going to head down toward Nassau Street onto West Bay. We're going to have water stations, cheering stations. We're going to have foam. We're going to have Junkanoo rush out. We're just looking to have a good time. I think the community needs something like this because it's been so long. And this is one of the first races since COVID that we're actually going to get to come together because everything else has been virtual.
You know, what's so amazing to me is that this is the 5th year for the UBFIT race, which means that you didn't skip any of the years during the pandemic.
No, we had 2017, 18, 19, 2020 was a pause, but we also had it in 2021. So yeah, this is our 5th year. And we're so grateful that in 2021, we were able to reimagine UBFIT and create a virtual race that had over 350 participants that happily went on their bikes and their treadmills and in their communities to walk and raise money. And we had participation from all around, Exuma, Abaco, Grand Bahama, Long Island, in Canada, as well as in the United States. And so, yes, UBFIT has reimagined itself and we're growing, and I'm so excited about it.
So what does that say to you in terms of support for the institution and belief in the institution? What is that a demonstration of?
You know, people love the University of the Bahamas and what it represents, whether, like Felicity said, whether you are not even from here or never had a child that went here, you may not be an alum. People love the University of the Bahamas for what it represents as our national university. And so when you think about making a donation, such as a $35 donation to become a participant, we share with you the vision that the money is going to the annual fund, the money is going to buy laptops for our students, the money is going to good use. And so people have been willing to invest their money and their time in something that they have seen a tangible reward from, and also a way for the university to say that we are the leaders in education, but we're also taking over the health and wellness space and stretching our brand in a way that has never been done before. That time and time again, you can't go wrong with health and fitness because we all need to stay healthy and to stay fit. So it's been beautiful to see the support from the community, not only internally, but externally too. This has become a race that the community has grown to love.
And it's not just a race, right? It's not just about health and fitness, although those are certainly worthy aims, but it's about raising funding that is helping the university in areas of true and real need. I recall that the first year it was for special needs mobility around the university campuses. And I believe this year the giving is going to go toward the annual fund and technology needs of the students. And students needing technology is a huge, huge area, is it not?
Yes, you're absolutely right. COVID taught us that, many students relied heavily on their cell phones and also our library. And when we were fully closed, we got an outcry of over 660, I think, students that said, look, I don't have technology at home. And now my brother and sister are home. And the one little device we have is being split between the 3 of us. You hear some heartbreaking stories of students who not only went through Dorian and lost so much, but then during COVID, their parents may have been furloughed or may have lost their jobs. And so technology was a really big driver for virtual UBFIT, and is still a driver for our fundraising efforts this year because students still need that help to get through those papers. Y'all know the research papers and all the robust things. You need technology, you need a laptop. It's not an option anymore. So yes, Tamika, fundraising is key. We are raising not only, like you said, funds, we're building fitness, and we're creating a fun atmosphere for the community to come out and support our students.
And I would imagine even within the community that you are creating, you're creating another community within the community because you single-handedly can't pull it off on your own, or I believe the co-chair is Ms. Boswick. You have to get people on the ground to help spread the message and engender support and connections with the university. That's where the fundraising is coming in, right?
Yes, it takes a village. It takes a team. There's no I in team. And this event here takes so many arms. And I just want to say a special thank you to Inga Boswick, the co-chair of UBFIT. She and I are working very closely together with a core team. I want to say a special thank you to Tamika and to the Office of University Relations, to Ms. Humblestone. Felicity, thank you for pushing out the messaging about UBFIT. It takes a family and a village to keep this thing going. And what I want to say, the quality of UBFIT is one that when we envisioned it in 2017, it would rival the top races in the country, and the quality of what you would experience, the quality of the collaterals that you would take home. We want it to be indicative of a university that's progressive and meeting the demands of our runners and our walkers who say, hey, we want a nice medal. We want a dry fit shirt. We want a timed race. All these things build credibility when you're thinking about creating a race that will eventually become a marathon. So that was the vision. Let's start with a 5K, start with a 10K. This year for year 5, we stretched it to a 15K. And we're just excited to see how it has evolved and developed because of team support. Thanking Mr. Hernandez, as well as President Smith, who in 2017 said, go for it. And the rest is history.
So I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. I know she didn't want me to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. I heard Felicity is running the 15K and she is gearing up. She's gearing up for that. And she said she's going to win, baby. So.
Right. So I am proudly signed up for UBFIT for the 5K walk, where I shall push my small child in a stroller, hopefully. But I just want to say that, like, this is, okay, UBFIT, and I can remember the first one, Kandice, right? So I wasn't at the institution at the time. I was working for Life 50 Foundations. I did a push to get like the focus team to come out. I remember thinking how great an event this was. And it truly is, like, all the things Kandice has said, and we know, Tamika, you and I know that this is her baby, and it is, and she should be enormously proud because it has extended the brand, right? Like, it makes it, this is about community. And something I noticed about sort of sport and the running community in general, I haven't done many races. UBFIT is amongst maybe 3 that I've done. And you know, I always notice that what these events do is bring the biggest cross section of our communities together. Like, you will just see everybody at a race early in the morning with the t-shirts. And it always feels like the most unifying type of event that you can hold is when you do, you know, a run, walk, sort of push event for multiple causes. And Kandice knows because she's on that circuit herself. So to have you be as realizing the vision that it is really amongst the forefront of these types of events in the country is pretty special. And I just think it exposes a whole other side of the country to who we are that might not necessarily have felt really connected to us, but they do now because they look forward to this race. And they come out, and it definitely is, you know, a huge part of the fitness, wellness, and community building brand within the country, which I think is, like, you know, as important as the funds that it raises. It's wonderful that it raises funds, but I think it does so much more than that.
Absolutely. And I know that a lot of people who participated in the race in 2017, when they came to the campus, they were even though they congregated at the start of the race in that section of the university, they were pleasantly surprised to see crane their necks and see how the campus had evolved and changed over time. And so it's important. You know, I don't believe that fundraising and community building are secondary or in importance to fundraising. I think it's just as important.
Yes, I think you're right. I remember 2017 when some of our corporate partners and friends of UB did look around. This was now, you know, we're now University of The Bahamas, and they hadn't seen our new signage, and many had not been to our campus. And so the goal of UBFIT, like you both have said, is not just to raise funds, but to increase the brand of the University of The Bahamas in ways that we may have never experienced it before, and for people to have a chance to connect with UB leadership and faculty and staff, and to kind of be together. There's nothing for me more exciting like when the gun goes off and the crowds of people run and walk together for a cause, for a purpose, down Nassau Street this year and down West Bay Street, saying that we are a unified force and we are building not only our own physical muscles, but also building the brand and building relationships around UB.
And because of the pandemic, UBFIT has developed a versatility. And so you don't have to be in person. You can actually do the race course on your own and then submit. So tell us about how challenging it must have been to think through and come up with the virtual element of that. And then this year it's hybrid. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so, as a committee, we had to reimagine UBFIT because we were stuck inside. You remember during the pandemic when we could only exercise in our yard?
I
I
do.
was so panicked. I was so depressed because that was happening like March, and then UBFIT should have happened at April. And so in 2020, obviously the race could just not happen in any form. But in 2021, we talked about, being a leader in that space because internationally, many of our races, the Boston Marathon and New York Marathon, they went virtual. And so we went virtual using some of the better races in the States and in Canada. We created our model that would work for us here, which allowed participants to walk, run, bike, skate, or push on their own. And they submitted their time. And then obviously, thanks to the help of OUR, we pushed out the messaging far and wide on social. And we were able to celebrate through a drive-through medal collection that Sunday. And so I think the key to life is being versatile and thinking outside the box. And we were able to do that thanks to technology and being able to connect people through their smartphones and Apple Watches and post their times and then, do that socially distant drive-through. But I'm thrilled that this year we're offering both. We have seen an uptick in numbers for in person for the Saturday, April 30th, but we also have a group of companies, one in particular that said, we're going to still do it virtually, Kandice. And we said, no problem. We will happily support you. And we're so grateful.
Yeah, because I remember when the virtual element had to happen, I completed my race course on my treadmill. So I was so pleased with myself, man. I was bragging. I was like, y'all, I did this thing on my treadmill, okay? So I think that's important too. So now enter your 15 corporate sponsors, 15 different companies who have demonstrated their support and belief in not only UBFIT, but in the university. Tell us about them.
Corporate Bahamas sustains UBFIT. From day one, Generali Worldwide came on as our title, and I'm so grateful to them. I know they're no longer in country, but that was the catalyst for Corporate Bahamas to really step up. And so this year, we're so thankful. Oak Tree Medical Center became our title sponsor in the year of 2020. So obviously 2021 was the first year. Now it's 2022. And now we have Doctors Hospital. That's our platinum sponsor. I want to thank Dr. Digges for coming on board and saying, you know what, we want title next. So we are so grateful. We already have our title sponsor for the following 3 years locked in, which is Doctors Hospital. You have J.S. Johnson. Everyone knows and loves Charles Johnson. I want to say congratulations to him. He just completed the Boston Marathon. That's my dream one day to hit that.
Congrats.
Oh, wow.
Congrats.
Yeah.
That's me in 25 years.
There you go. But listen, Mr. Johnson has been one of the greatest proponents of UB, not only for UBFIT, but prior to UBFIT because of the J.S. Johnson's President Scholars Program. And so corporate sponsors like that, we're just grateful for. I mean, I can list them all if you want me to, but the bottom line is they're all saying, we love UB, we believe in UBFIT. It furthers our brand, it supports your brand, and it helps our students. And the support, even in this year, has been fantastic.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest connects for Corporate Bahamas and us are our stoked alumni.
Yes, we have some alumni at these companies that are saying, you know what, let's do this, let's get out there. I want to say thank you to the UB Alumni Association for saying that they're coming back on board. And some of these corporate companies that are forming groups and teams, many of them attended UB and have that fuzzy feeling when they think about UB and they want to come back and bring their children to University of the Bahamas to say, this is where mommy and daddy went to school, and we're going to walk and run together as a family.
So Kandice, what would you say to people who might be considering participating this year and like, I don't know, inflation and all this and all that, and it's just a race. What would you say to them if you could?
I would say, put your tennis shoes on and let's go. We can always find a litany of excuses and why not to do things, but this is one of those things that will make you feel better. I can tell you, as a proponent of fitness and running in particular, those endorphins, once they kick in, you realize after the fact, it was well worth it. And so from a physical perspective, that's a great reason to come out. but also to supporting our students. The money raised, again, will help the annual fund and support for technology. You're going to be doing a good thing, not just for your body, but also for our students. If you are a UB faculty or staff member, you're investing in your own race. And that's one of the things I had pushed for in the team to say, can we support our own? Can we have our own thing? Can we be proud of something that has sustained itself for 5 years? And so I would say, come on out, faculty, staff, students, alumni, and friends, our partners, our donors are coming, so they need to meet you. And let's have a good time together, raising money for something that matters. It's going to be a wonderful day. I'm speaking great weather. We have an excellent lineup. We're going to have Junkanoo. We haven't heard Junkanoo live in years. So we have a really nice post-Brace Village event scheduled, and we need people there. We need you there.
It seems to me that developing programs and avenues for people to connect with the university is a major and big part of what you have to do. You, Kandice and Felicity, have to do. UBFIT is one of the signature events and programs of DIA and the university. What are some other ones? And I would imagine that you would have to kind of think through some things that are sustainable to keep not only the narratives going, but to continue to nurture the relationships, right?
Sure, absolutely. So definitely there's infrastructure in most universities to appeal to a broad base of its constituents every year. Typically, that's called the annual fund. So the UB we launched the annual fund, I think in 2007, if my memory serves correct. And that means that alumni are guaranteed to probably get at least 2, maybe 3 appeals within a year. We've also very recently added to the infrastructure of what we do, given that we are a full university now and we have a charter day and we have homecoming every year. We've added a day of giving to that slate of events, which also celebrates and is an opportunity for people to invest, galvanized around one singular day. The Day of Giving concept, again, many universities typically add this. They make it on their charter day or a significant day that's important to the fiscal year of the institution, and borrowed lots of concepts from Giving Tuesday, which is an international event that has, just taken storm over many sort of years, but it's a very sort of similar concept, and UB has one now as well for the past 2 years, and we'll have one again this year. We have the Alumni Awards that happened for 2021. It had to be delayed because of the pandemic, unfortunately, but occurred in February 2022, which is an opportunity to recognize via decade celebrations, very notable and outstanding alumni, but also, for the Alumni Association to participate in a bit of friend and fundraising as well. And I believe and hope will return to sort of like the homecoming week this year. In the past, I know that close to charter time, because I attended as a guest, again, I wasn't put back on staff yet, but to the UB soiree event, which was a sort of fundraising event and nice black tie affair that was really nice. So you have things like that, which become sometimes ad hoc opportunities and other engagement events based on opportunity. But our calendared events, UBFIT obviously has become one now, going back many years or about 10 years. The annual fund is on the calendar, and most recently, Day of Giving are guaranteed opportunities for people to show their investment and their support.
All right. Well, so what is next for corporate and foundation relations, and what's next for development and grants?
Well, we are very busy in our private scholarship season preparations. One of the biggest things that in our department we talk to donors about is beyond tuition. Thanks to the government grant, tuition is covered for students that make a 2.0 GPA and above, but there's so many other needs of our students. And so we've been on a trajectory of sharing the good news with donors who may not have been aware that the government grant covers tuition, but there's other ways that you can give. Study abroad has become a really good opportunity that donors have embraced to say, you know, our students should get off the rock, have an opportunity to see the world. And so we are really working toward our private scholarships having more depth in terms of opportunity for our students to be covered beyond tuition. And then obviously supporting our foundations. When I say a special thank you to the Life for Key Foundations for their long-standing support of University of the Bahamas. We are working with them to build capacity and to find new ways to support our students. And so the work continues on a day-to-day basis, Tamika, to let donors know that University of the Bahamas is here. We are well equipped to support your vision, like Felicity said, that may be a particular goal of a donor, and that we are here to sustain this relationship with you through good stewardship, good communication, and fiscal responsibility.
And for you, Felicity?
Sure. Well, in our work, we're always a bit of a mix of proactive and reactive. So the reactive component of what we do is, connecting with donors or alum who are just like, this is really what I would like to do. This is how I would like to invest, and, managing that relationship and helping them see their philanthropic dreams come true. So that's always a part of what we do in terms of connecting with donors and prospective donors. And then on the proactive side of things, as Kandice mentioned, beyond tuition is a priority that's going to be a longstanding one in terms of sort of where we are with campaign priorities, planning for a campaign, and other big fundraising chunks. What really sort of took immediate precedence right now is the campaign to rebuild UB North. So we're in a bit of as we know, a transition period with the university, with a leadership changeover that will happen this year. But a guaranteed priority will be campaign for UB North because of the devastation of that campus due to Hurricane Dorian. And then typically when a university experiences a change in leadership, you sort of regroup and you look around, and we would set another phase of campaign planning and campaign priorities broader than that. So we know for sure we're going to be supporting our colleagues at the UB North campus in their fundraising efforts. And on the heels of that, be setting other capital project priorities for the university.
Okay, well, that is a good place to wrap up. Thank you so much, Felicity Humblestone and Kandice Eldon, for joining us on this episode of University Drive. I want to say a special thank you to our listening audience. Please continue to stay connected with University Drive and the university by visiting www.ub.edu.bs. Follow us across all of our social media channels as well. I'm Tamika Lundy, signing off for now.
University Drive is a production of the Office of University Relations and the Communications and Creative Arts Academic Unit at University of the Bahamas. All rights reserved.